Hello fellow canners, welcome back to Grab Your Jars. I'm Lisa Bishop and today I'm going to be making sauerkraut in the jars. Making sauerkraut in the jars is one of the times that I want to sterilize my jars beforehand, and I simply put my jars in a big pot of boiling water and boil them for at least 10 minutes. When that timer's off, I go ahead and take them out of the pot and just set them aside until I'm ready to put my sauerkraut in it. When it comes to making sauerkraut in a jar, you don't need a lot of stuff to get going. You will need your cabbage, and I've got 3 big heads of cabbage here because my daughter and I are both going to be making sauerkraut. You need a little scale. You need some kind of container to put a lot of cabbage in, and you will need some canning salt. I also have out here a nice sharp knife, and basically this and your jars and some lids and screw bands is all you need to make sauerkraut in the jar. I'm going to go ahead and get some water boiling for my lids. You don't necessarily need to have your lids really hot when we're going to use them, but I do like to just have them sterilized because they're going to be sitting on the jars for about a week. And then we will go through a process. We'll sterilize them when we're ready to process them in boiling bath water. Initially, you've got your head of cabbage here, and I'm just going to go ahead and peel off and get rid of some of these outer leaves. I have a worm bin, so these leaves are going to go out to the worms who love cabbage. All right, really, I don't need to take off much more than that. Just take off the leaves that look bad or not fresh to you, and then it should be ready to go. So now I'm ready to go ahead and cut my cabbage. And to start with, we'll just cut it in half. And then I'm going to cut it in half again, so I'll quarter it. And I'm going to go ahead and cut the core off. You'll want to go ahead and do this with all your cabbage, and then it's going to be ready to shred. So to cut your cabbage into sauerkraut, I just like to slice it, and it can be whatever width you like. I like them kind of thin, so I'm going for thin. It doesn't really take that much time. Voila, I'm going to put it in my container. Now I have weighed my container beforehand. Know that my container weighs 13.8 ounces, and I want to get 5 pounds of sauerkraut into here. So I'm just going to keep slicing until I have 5. I have my cabbage all sliced and diced and ready to go. It's 5 pounds. I like to use my enamel slow boiling bathwater pot. Because it is enamel, you don't want to use aluminum. You can use plastic, whatever container you have, but this is nice and big. I'm going to go ahead and dump my 5 pounds of cabbage in there. And then I'm going to take 3.5 tablespoons of canning salt. You don't want to use table salt because it will make your sauerkraut cloudy. So just going to use regular canning salt. 3.5 a ton. And then I'm just going to mix it in really well, and I just use my hands because they are clean. They've been washed. I've got my salt all nice and mixed in here. One of the things that salt does, it brings the moisture out of your cabbage. So I'm going to actually just let this sit for, I don't know, 15 minutes to a half an hour until it gets nice and moist, and that makes it easier. It also softens up a little bit, makes it easier to put into your jars. We just take our cabbage and put them into our jars. We're using pints, and you want to put the cabbage to about a 1/2 inch from the top. You want it firmly packed, but not like mashed and packed, just kind of firmly packed. So we use a little bit of hands, and then we use the bottom of a spoon to kind of pack them in a little bit more. So this is what I have left in my container. It's the brine, and I'm going to go ahead and pour that into a measuring cup. I ended up with 2 cups of brine left, and I just put a little bitty amount in each jar so they all got a little bit of the brine. And then I filled to within a 1/2 inch of the top with cold water. I'm going to just take a knife and run it along the edge and make sure we're getting all of the air bubbles out. And I'll do that with all my jars. Now you just want to take a clean cloth and wipe around the rim of the jar and just quickly the outside of the jar as well. I'm just going to go ahead and put my sterilized lids on the jars. Remember, they're not hot at this point, and that's okay. We just want them sterile, but they don't have to be hot because we're not processing right now. We are going to be letting these jars sit. You want to put your screw band on firmly tight. And then I'm going to take these and set them in a room off to the side, somewhere where we're not smelling them all the time, for 4 or 5 days. Here's my jar of sauerkraut that's been sitting off in my dark room for 2 days now. And as you can see, I don't really see that it's fermenting. So just because you don't see anything doesn't mean it's not working in there. This is day 4 of my sauerkraut sitting in its jar. You can see a little bit of foaminess up here. Can't really see anything by looking straight at the jar, I don't think. Yeah, not really. But if you look on top, it has been fermenting and it has been working. And tomorrow, which would be day 5, I'm going to go ahead and can these. Now, sometimes when you take a jar that's kind of cool or room temperature and you put it into a boiling bath water, the jar will break. So, and it's just because of the difference in the temperature. So I'm going to go ahead and warm up my jars a little bit in hot water before I put them in my boiling bath water. As soon as they've been sitting in here for 5-10 minutes, and I'll go ahead and process them in my boiling bath water. I've got my boiling bathwater pot on the stove, water's in it, getting ready for it to boil. As soon as it gets to a good rolling boil, go ahead and put your jars in the pot and start timing immediately for 15 minutes. With sauerkraut, you do not have to wait until it returns to a rolling boil to start timing. And my jars are done. I've taken them out of the boiling bath water. I'm going to let them sit here till they're cool. I'll check them for a seal. I'm going to wash the outside of the jars, take off my screw bands, date them, and then put them in my storage area for my canning stuff. And that's it. Doing sauerkraut in the jars is pretty easy peasy. Anybody can do it. Hey, I just wanted to add that I do let my sauerkraut jars sit in my canning cupboard for 2 or 3 months before I eat it. Yeah, I will cheat once in a while and have a jar about a month in, but the majority of them sit in my cupboard for 2 or 3 months. This allows for the cabbage to get nice and soft, and it provides for maximum flavor of your sauerkraut. So try and be patient and wait for that sauerkraut to be ready. Thank you so much for joining me. If you liked my video, hit like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.